Hello, everybody. In this episode, we refer to an article that originally ran in The Atlantic on December 26th, 2024. It's by Arthur C. Brooks, and it ran under the headline, The Big Thing to Know About Pain. In case you want to go look it up, we also make reference to a treatment called ACT, or Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, which is a form of cognitive behavioral therapy. We apologize for not being clearer about that in the episode. We were still figuring out how to be podcasters. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Honest Psychologist podcast, where two licensed clinical psychologists have joined the chat. I'm Dr. Whitney Graff.
I'm Dr. Paige Hover. We bring our years of expertise to the conversations you're already having, breaking down the topics shaping culture, social media, and everyday life.
No psychobabble, just relatable discussions about how our minds work and why it matters. So hello, Dr.
Everybody.
Hover.
Dr. Graff, good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
So we planned today to talk about an article from The Atlantic. What's it technically called?
It's by Arthur Brooks, who, if you don't read his stuff, I really do like his stuff. He writes about, his whole thing is like he's on the happiness beat, but like with a full understanding that he's not actually trying to help people achieve this kind of constant sense of being happy. It's more it's more like he's a very wise writer, and it's a lot of stuff about just how to live sort of a good life.
Yeah.
And I just find him very smart and very incisive.
Well, I think that even just like the idea of like what a good life is, right? Like I think it can be so synonymous with happy when that's not, good could be fulfilled, good could be satisfying, good could be a wide range of good, bad, and ugly. That, I don't know, that's what life is. But I think that that's a lot of what people gravitate towards, is this idea of like happy is where you're supposed to be. And we're always having to kind of fight against that because it's not the goal. It's actually not really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this article is like, it's like that all distilled into one piece.
Yes. So the article is called The Big Thing to Know About Pain. And I think we've already kind of started to talk about like why we wanted to talk about this. I mean, I think it'd be helpful maybe to summarize a little bit about what the article is in case anybody doesn't read it, and kind of why it got our attention.
Yeah, definitely. Can I just say at the outset though, like before we say another word, have you seen, so I do a lot of ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, right? And you do some of this too, yes? Have you seen, there's actually, I think, research that says that like people learning ACT as therapists, or like beginning ACT therapists, are more anxious in their work than like more traditional CBT therapists?
I mean, so I can totally relate to that. Like, I will never forget. I think we worked at the same place that I got introduced to ACT at Linden Oaks. With Joanne.
You were like a second year.
Yeah, that was my first practicum that I had.
Yeah, I learned it in school, like around second, third year. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we learned it around the same time. Yeah. And you can tell me if this was your experience, but I didn't buy into it for a really long time because it was so anxiety provoking. Like I remember we would be going through like didactics in practicum and like going through some of the exercises or going through mindfulness exercises. And I was so anxious that I was like, why on earth would somebody try to sell this as like helpful? And I feel like it was this kind of like journey that I had to take to appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? Because acceptance and commitment therapy is all about facing the tough stuff, and anxiety is one of them, and then being able to accept them and work through them. But that's a hard sell at first.
Well, yeah, but the reason why I bring it up right away is that even when you start introducing what he says in this article, I can almost feel people's resistance because there is a little bit of challenge to, I think, a lot of things that are embedded in, I think, especially American culture, maybe like other, similar kind of cultures as well, where we have a bit of a fix it mentality and, sort of like if you have a problem, like we've got tons of technology and know how, like just fix it. And even to sort of say that, because he says, like, what is it, the big problem, the big thing to know about pain, the subhead is trying to avoid suffering can paradoxically make it worse.
Mhm.
You feel people's resistance rise, like I maybe I'm projecting, but I like almost feel like I can feel it right away with somebody going, that's easy for you to say, or you don't know how hard it is to live with this, so how dare you suggest, or I'm trying so hard, how dare Arthur Brooks suggest that I could be paradoxically making it worse. And you feel that, and you feel
Mhm.
this like pull to almost like you just kind of want to give in a little bit and sort of be like, yep, that's the exception. So it really is terrible. And so we should just try to eliminate it. In your case, no problem. Because, and I think because there is something kind of valid and understandable about a resistance to addressing a resistance to changing the way we typically do things. So I guess maybe we should summarize in order to like give that context.
Yeah. So, I mean, the article kind of talks about like where, I mean, he goes way back where he talks about, I'm going to butcher the way that
Like
the
hedonism back
yes.
in the ancient Greeks.
Yes. So he talks about the ancient Greeks and how this philosophy of basically like live for the moment, live in as much pleasure as possible, like that kind of really took hold. And I mean, then another philosopher came back and was like, no, actually, there's kind of a paradox to that, or there's kind of a real problem with that. And how he then says, like we've seen this kind of happen in modern times. And he references, this was really popular in like the hippie era or the 70s. And one of my first thoughts on it is actually, I think it's continued. I think it's pretty alive and well today. Like if you look at
Okay.
social media, that is dopamine, that is happy, like look for something that gives you pleasure immediately and like super fast. So
He
he
says,
says, it's kind of
seeking
been, go ahead.
seeking pleasure and seeking to avoid pain is what you're talking
Yes.
about. Always
Yes.
seek pleasure and avoid pain.
Yes. And then he goes on to talk about how that can actually be paradoxical and explains that. And then he talks about acceptance and commitment therapy. He talks
I
about
know we got a
Buddhism.
shout
I
out.
know.
We
I
gotta get a
know.
shout out.
It's always so nice when it's like,
Yes,
yes.
that's what I do. That's what I do. Like that's the thing I've been passionate about for 10 years. 12
Yes, it's
years.
the this moment, where I text you, I'm like, this.
This. I know we had a this moment about this here. Okay, I did go back, I reread it, but I loved the way he talks about this kind of dopamine, um, like would you call it like I think they might call it the dopamine treadmill, where you get a dopamine hit when you anticipate pleasure and you have this like, ooh, I want that, and it feels really good.
Yeah.
Makes me think of online shopping because I just,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, I do love to go around and put stuff in my shopping baskets. But then if the thing that comes doesn't exceed your expectations, you don't get any of that dopamine hit. So you just
Hmm.
kind of stay. I don't know the like maybe we should look into the neuroscience, but it sounds right. Um, Sounds right to me. And so then when the thing that I ordered online comes in the mail, I've kind of long forgotten, and it's rarely better than I thought it was going to be. And I've bought things and forgotten that I have bought them, or
Oh,
like I buy it, it arrives, I'm like, oh yeah, that fits. I hang it in the closet. And like a year later, where did this come from?
or my favorite, where the pile in the corner of like, I gotta return that just lives forever.
Does it? No, I am Johnny on the spot with the returns. Like I will be out like the
Same.
next day because I cannot stand to have that money outstanding. I'm like, nope, give me my
There are
$50
many
back.
times that I lose the money because it's like, oh wow, it's 90 days. I thought I bought that yesterday.
Well,
Should have returned
speaking of self-diagnosis, this is where my like tiny bit of OCPD obsessive compulsive personality disorder comes in. I have a little hint of that because it just cannot waste money. Cannot do it. Have to be talked into it. So if I'm returning the pair of jeans, they are going back the next day. So rigid about it.
See, I mean, I can self-diagnose a little and like, yeah, part of the reason this article stands out to me and all of the acceptance and commitment therapy is because it works on the thing that I have to work on, which is avoidance, right? Like,
Ooh,
I
what's your
mean,
avoidance?
I can be an avoider. Yeah, for sure.
What is the thing you avoid most regularly?
Ooh,
Is it a feeling or is it like a doing?
probably more of a doing, like I'm the one that that does her laundry in 7 to 10 business days. It'll go in the drawer, or like I am not the immediate unpacker. Like sometimes I will have stuff in my suitcase for until I go on my next trip. And I'm like, oh, that's where that was.
So I think, well, if I think about it, if I like put my clinician hat on, I think test this out. Like, is there an avoidance of just the minor discomfort of having to stop whatever it is you want to be doing and do the unpacking and like my dog is getting a drink?
Oh, it's okay. Mine's outside the door, so I'm sure she'll pick up something.
Like when you have to go unpack, that's not exactly fun. And if you just avoid that sort of discomfort, I don't know, is that
It's like having the energy after I've already done, like when you come back from traveling, it's like I always say that I love to travel, but I wish I could just apparate. And my little Harry Potter nerd came out, but just if I
you
could
could
just
what?
in
Never
Harry
read the
Potter, they
book.
call teleporting apparating.
Oh.
And so if I could just teleport somewhere, great. The actual act of
Oh.
traveling is the worst. So I am exhausted and I don't want to think about anything else. So the idea of then having the energy to go through something that's uncomfortable is like, I don't want to deal with it. I will deal with it later. And the same thing, I don't love doing laundry. It always
That's
takes
the
longer
worst.
than you expect it to, and you're tired of it. And it's like, how has this taken 3 days? Like,
Well, like there's no payout to
no,
laundry.
no, because
Oh,
the
great.
basket just gets filled.
I have the same thing I had before, right? I mean, okay, if we wanted to like, you know how therapists are so good at like we can argue ourselves into anything.
Yeah.
I could say you come home from a trip and you're exhausted and maybe you're just prioritizing the value, of rest.
I do love that.
Maybe you're moving in the direction of rest and other priorities.
Yeah,
Who
that's true.
cares? Who cares about your suitcase?
Yeah.
Therapized.
Reframed, positive reframe.
Reframed.
I like it.
I'm still looking at the article on my screen here, but yeah, so this like kind of dopamine problem where like he's got like the Rolling Stones, like I can't get no satisfaction even though I try and I try and I try. It's like we
Yeah,
never arrive at that sense of being fully satisfied and like we never arrive at happiness.
right.
The dopamine is short-lived.
Right. Which is
Um,
that paradox, right? That I think that if we're always chasing happiness, like we're never going to get it, because we can't just um achieve happiness. We can't be content, right? Like it has to exceed. And which is another note that I made is that I feel like contentment or content is a dirty word these days. Like the amount of times I will talk with my clients about that of like, what would it be like to just be content with things? And they're like, ugh, no. Like,
really?
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I work with, those high achievers and those overachievers. So I think that
yeah,
the idea of passing the class, the idea of getting a B, the idea of not being
totally.
promoted every single year is not in their vocabulary, So it's like they are always operating on that. It's got to be higher. It's got to be higher. And it, I mean, they get burnt out really quickly because there's when you're at the top there you can't go any higher, so if you've never been comfortable with middle of the road or average or something that's just content, not exceedingly happy or not thrilling, it's like you've done something wrong. And maybe it's
Oh,
part of that same feeling, right? If it doesn't feel good, well, it didn't exceed your expectations, then something feels amiss, right? And if you're always practiced at exceeding your own expectations or the expectations of others, it doesn't feel good. And then therefore it must be bad. If it doesn't
it's
feel good,
quite
it must be
binary.
bad.
Oh, you're right. And then, he references Dopamine Nation. Did you read that book?
I didn't.
Okay, I don't know why I have not read it either. The author, Anna Lemke, I have actually met her. So
Oh,
I know, cool, right? She wrote this other book called Drug Dealer MD
I
about
have heard of that one. I have that and I've leafed through it, but I haven't read the whole thing.
yeah, I got her to come talk at this conference that I planned like 20 like 17 or something like that.
Oh,
So
nice.
she's super cool. But I don't know why I haven't read this book, but I think like if I'm sort of guessing at the thesis, it says finding balance in the age of indulgence. I think it's what you're talking about of like we're always kind of getting we live in the state of like getting hits of dopamine, likes, shares, pings, this sort of we're getting kind of juiced by it all the time.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, you say like people do not want to be content. I do actually relate to it the way you said it. I don't know that I want to kind of just accept the status quo. I think I have like some
Yeah.
ambition inside me. And like if you put it in a different frame rather than being related to ambition, if you think about like just sort of a temporary state, don't you feel like when people are given the opportunity to like shut things off and kind of break their technology habit for a few days, and then it's like, oh, it was so quiet. Or like, oh, I
Mhm.
went to the national parks, or I went camping or something.
Mhm.
And they get like this contrasting feeling. I think that could almost be called a sort of like contentment of just
Yeah.
being. And then
Yeah.
when people experience it, they're like, I love that.
Yeah. But the thing is, we don't want to feel, and we would never prescribe to feel that forever, right? Like, I think that
No.
that's the thing that we have to accept with our emotional state is that there is no one perfect state you want to stay in. Like, you can't be content living, camping life forever. At some point, it gets to be like, this doesn't fit anymore, And I think that having some acceptance around that is really important. Um, because then it's not like you're not holding so tight to that. You're not then trying to morph things. There's movement, which is also a big thing in mindfulness, just to kind of like ride the wave and kind of go with the flow a little bit. But I think it could be easy for people to then come back and be like, I loved that. So how do I do that every day? And it's like, no, you're not supposed to do that every day.
I know, right? We could so easily dabble in some like Buddhism or something here because then it's sort of like, I know that's our human nature where we get something we like and that's just our striving nature, like as
Mhm.
humans. Like even if I get a sense of peace, and like quiet contentment, oh, I'll have more and more and more of that. And then that would actually be a bad thing
Yeah, yeah,
in
for
some
sure.
way or another.
Yeah. And the article does reference that of like Buddhism and all that stuff. And that's, I think, a big tenet of mindfulness and mindfulness, is a big tenet of ACT, So I think it's this like same idea, but it is really hard. Like it's hard to go with the flow, I guess, and kind of know that things are constantly going to change, like there is no one state of contentment or happiness that you're meant to be in forever. But
Yeah.
that's really tough.
Well, and then that kind of brings us to this idea of then what do we do with the opposite side of it? Like, say you live with chronic pain.
Hmm.
And that is such an incredibly hard thing to talk about,
Yeah.
because everyone's pain is unique and different. And it's like, how do you, on one hand, completely validate that?
Right.
And then Arthur Brooks is talking about like because pain is considered something to be eliminated, I'm quoting him,
Yeah.
not a normal part of life to be managed. Just as pleasure seeking tends to make pleasure unattainable, a strategy of pain avoidance can make suffering worse. That can be like our central message in our therapeutic work. But I am always shaking in my boots when I go anywhere near that. because I don't want people to hear that I don't appreciate what they're going through. I don't want people to hear that they're being blamed,
Mhm.
or they should just do something or just accept or like, you know, look what you got yourself into, because I think it's not that, and it is cultural, and we're like you said, it's like definitely not gone away. If anything, it's gotten worse, that we're just simmering in this soup of maximize pleasure and avoid pain every day, all the time, in all of our media and all of our interactions, and then
Yeah.
having to even just like bring awareness to, that's kind of the paradigm we're stuck in right now. That's
Yeah.
hard, even just raising awareness.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the awareness is hard. I think even in the word like acceptance and commitment therapy, I find that sometimes people they struggle to hear that because they're like, oh, so you just want me to be miserable and be okay with that. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know, there's so much more to that. But I do think that I almost wonder if that's like something to approach acceptance and commitment therapy of when we talk about it with people, is like there are phases almost. Like
Oh
in the
yeah.
beginning, that's going to be incredibly hard to swallow. This idea that we can't eliminate something. I mean, this is kind of a tangent, but sort of related. I think that as therapists, we're kind of stuck with how do we market to people? How do we make therapy more attainable? How do we get people in the door? Right? Because you
Yes.
and I both subscribe to the idea that therapy is not meant to be comfortable, but that's not a great marketing
Isn't
strategy.
this just the worst like business opportunity? I'm gonna try to sell people what they might need and not what they want. And like, how have any of us stayed in business? Freaking
And
terrible.
I do think though that there's like that's why there's different kinds of therapy, right? Because I think that maybe something that's like a little bit more like a traditional CBT of like, yeah, we can take this and we can help you control this, and here are some tools, and it gives you the hope. But I find that people come to me when they've already been in therapy before. I rarely get people who are first time therapy clients that like to work with me, because if you want that, if you're in that first stage where you're having a hard time wrapping your head around accepting that pain is going to be part of the equation, it's it's really hard to hear me give the suggestions that I do. We miss each other. But I find that people that have been in therapy before and they want something more, they almost kind of have this understanding of, oh, yeah, no, that's right. And maybe I am okay to hear that now. Maybe I'm in a place where that is something I can accept. But gosh, I mean, in those first initial phases, even if you take it to think about physical pain, if you're told that you're going to have physical chronic pain for the rest of your life, those first couple of stages, or however long it is you're in that initial stage, is really hard to
Well, it's a
digest.
grief process.
Sure.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
grieving in that. And you're exactly right. I mean, even if you do act just like extremely by the book, which now like we like adapt it ourselves, but right away, first page in the book is what have you tried and how has it worked? And
Hmm.
so if you haven't maybe gone on a process of like trying to eliminate that which cannot be eliminated, then it's hard to believe that it cannot be eliminated. We're still
Hmm.
in this idea of like, if I just try hard enough, maybe I can make the anxiety go away. Maybe I can
Hmm.
make this thought go away. Maybe I can make my chronic pain go away. I just haven't found it. And then when we come in and like, I'll have people make a list. What have you tried? Have any
Hmm.
of those things eliminated it?
Hmm.
And along the way, did they make your life better? Did they make your life worse? Maybe some of them made it better, but ultimately, like we're offering this idea of um, allowing that which can't be eliminated because striving to eliminate it doesn't work.
Yeah. And I think that's what's nice about this article is I think that it's easy to digest that concept. It's very just like, hey, here's some key nuggets that think about it. And I think this is a good article even to have on hand for, if any therapy clients wanted to come see me, just like, hey, take a look at this. Does any of that resonate with you? That might be a good idea for you to tell if I'm the right therapist for you. If this doesn't resonate at all, then, maybe I'm not the person for you. But I think it's a good way to kind of put that forth of like, oh, I'm ready to kind of think about that. Because it does take some courage to really just like, okay, I've gone through the grief process and now I'm gonna sign up for living life uncomfortably, which is a fact of life, right? It is a human fact, but when it's personalized, right? If it's the chronic pain, if it's the anxiety, if it's whatever it is that your breed of discomfort is you have to live with, like you have to take some time to grieve it, and then
Yeah.
you have to think about, okay, how can I still live a life that has meaning? It may not be positive all the time. Sometimes it might be really hard, or maybe I'll have to adjust my expectations of what life was going to be like. Like that takes some courage to face that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's the other piece is, how will you fill your life within whatever limitations you face?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do think that that's different for different people. I don't know that that's a sell for everybody. And I don't know that that's like, bad. It's kind of like that this may work for you, it may not, like I think about that sometimes this just may not be something that resonates, and maybe I'm worried I'm going to step in something and that's part of my hesitation, but like I look back at like where I grew up, right, which was very blue collar, very like um pretty poor, but a lot of people who got a job, they didn't love it, but it was a job and you worked that job forever. Happiness wasn't really part of the equation. Meaning wasn't part of the equation. It was a job. You did it. And there's a lot of chronic pain, physical pain, but also, maybe just not feeling super happy or fulfilled, but that was never part of the equation. The idea that like I don't get to ask myself if this job means anything to me. This is what I do, and I'm going to do it until I'm done. But I think about like the physical pain that comes with that. It can feel very helpless of like doing anything to make that feel better. It's just like, well, I just want it gone, right? Like I think a lot of push to have just like, oh, well, can't you get rid of it? Or can't you just like this idea that you would have to live with more discomfort and that's the goal, I think is probably pretty hard for certain circumstances. Like if you're working a job that doesn't give you any meaning or you're facing financial strain or any of that stuff that comes with it, the idea of inviting more pain and that's normal, I don't think that sometimes you always have the capacity to hold that, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally does. I think, if I kind of like, if there's like this middle path, that we're aiming for, the, the pain killing medication is something that is like taking taking a pill is very, very quick. And
Yeah.
the idea is that it relieves quickly and as as completely as possible. But
Yeah. Mhm.
contrast that with doing physical therapy, which is also doing something,
Yeah.
so I mean I do think, as like therapists or helpers, people do need to feel like they're doing something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
trying something, or it was something in the way you said it where it was like, well, I'm going to go do something about this. All of a sudden I thought like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is like, in a way that's like your energy speak, like I have some drive, I have
Yeah.
motivation, I want to do something about this.
Yeah.
And then what we offer that person at that moment where they're saying, I'm ready to do something, makes a
Mm-hmm.
complete difference.
Yeah. And I think it takes a mindset shift in that of like, maybe I won't eliminate the pain because like sometimes I think that not having eliminated the pain can make you feel like a failure, right? Like you take physical therapy, for instance, like the whole goal. I mean, God, I was in physical therapy for years for my
I'm
hip, and
in
I
it
remember you
now
have to
again. Yes. I have very mixed feelings about physical therapy. Continue.
Oh, I want to hear now. But I mean, part of that is assessing, like just like I think most therapies do, is they want to assess your progress. So they're asking you, well, what's your level of pain now? And it can feel pretty crappy when it's like it doesn't feel any different, right? Like I'm coming here 3 times a week, I'm doing the exercises you're telling me to do, and the pain is still there. I think that it can be that's its own kind of not roadblock, but a phase or a part of that process that I think you have to kind of work with. And I think that that can sometimes be hard for people to move past. You know, maybe it feels like I'm not doing something right, or it feels hopeless or helpless. I mean, chronicity of anything can feel really hopeless, and
Mhm.
hopelessness is that's a rough one. Like that
Yeah.
is hard to work with and hard to sit with.
Yeah, because in the hopelessness, you lose that drive.
Yeah.
Um, I being the, I don't know, like, I guess I'm one of those perfectionistic, like overachieving types, and I don't like to work out like at all. I hate
Damn, girl.
just hate it.
Dieting is even harder. I just don't do it.
And yeah, and so you live in this place where you're like, I guess some of my problems would get better if I did physical therapy or if I had a better workout routine. And it's easy. You're like, well, people have told me what to do and I'm not doing it. And
Yeah.
but I need like the person who's working with me. I like need to feel seen and like, I know you hate this
Yeah.
and you might be doing it a little bit under protest. And I don't the PT I'm in right now, I don't honestly know if it's going to help. Like I'm bringing I feel like all of my psychological skills to bear where I'm kind of like I show up, I am giving it my all. I'm trying really hard not to like cheat at this. And I am having thoughts like this is going to turn into nothing. This is
Yeah.
going to turn out to not help me at all. And is it still worth trying if I'm having this prediction thought in advance that like this isn't going to work and
Mhm.
it's not like a I think people who love to work out, it's more of a natural fit. They feel very at home in that
Yeah.
environment where it's like exercises and strength training. And they're like, oh, I get this. I speak this language. I'm like, I feel like the fish out of water here. So yeah, so I don't know. But I'm trying it
Yeah.
because it's been recommended. It's like we won't know until we try. I'm trying to do something. And I think that, I don't know, I can relate to all the aspects of this. I can relate to the hopelessness. I can relate to wanting to do something. I can relate to being resistant to trying something.
I'm curious though, like, because this idea of eliminating pain, I think, is so prolific, even with all of your psychological acumen, do you think that there's still that in the backdrop of like, well, is this going to work? Slash, is this going to fix it? Slash, is this going to take it away? And does that impact your relationship with the process?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like um it's different if you understand what the pain is versus if you don't know what the pain is.
Fair. Yeah.
Um, so I'm trying this now, and if kind of nothing happens, then they're gonna try to get more imaging and see if they can better figure out where the pain is coming from.
Yeah.
And so being in that unknown of not knowing why this hurts, you have a lot of secondary, anxiety. Is something really wrong? What are they going to find?
Yeah.
And I'm living with that right now. Generally, I think the way I get through these things myself personally is like, I just don't believe anything really lasts. At least not if like I just kind of keep living my life. And so yeah, I'm having this now. I didn't before, and I can imagine there might be a time in the future where I won't have it again.
Hmm.
So I kind of just hold on to that as like everything changes.
Yeah.
I also I don't know how to put it exactly. I do have like I definitely have these thoughts like I have a lot of years left to live and I really hope there's nothing seriously bad.
Yeah.
And then I just am like, well, I mean, what am I going to do about that in this moment right now?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't know what it'll be like when I'm 75 right now. So I just
Mhm.
kind of like just keep living my life in a lot of ways because
Right.
I desperately want to know, but I can't. That's not something that can be known right now. So I just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
That's so true. And I feel like you summarized probably what I think a lot of listeners can feel, like I think that there's that. I mean, how many times do people come to us and they're like, they don't know what the reason or the cause is, like we help them put together some things. Some things seem more obvious to us than others, but I mean, that first walking through the door is like, what's going on? Like,
Hmm.
is this fixable? Is it not? Is it something I'll have to live with forever? I think that anything that's chronic, but I think that mental health is one of those uniquely challenging things, right? Because like part of like we kind of hope that we don't go through physical pain, right? We're going to as we're going to get older, or as there's things that will happen, but I think you can physically kind of feel good for longer, but like emotions out the gate, hey, there's good, bad, and ugly. Like, and you have them from day one. They will always be with you, and you need to work with them. Like I think that that's what's hard about mental health is like, you're always going to be facing something difficult, right? Sad, anxiety, jealousy, anger, all of that stuff. And how do you work with incorporating that in your day to day? I think is really can be like it can just be like a little overwhelming, to think about that. And I think it can feel just like, but I think what I'm getting at with the whole like, is it going to be with me forever? Of just like, if anger keeps popping up, it's like, well, is this going to ruin my life? Is this going to be? And it's
Hmm.
like, well, it's always going to be there and it's always meant to be, and you're always meant to work with it. But, this panic of, is it going to get out of control? Is it going to impact my life? It's like, well, no, you have to work with that being there. We never want to eliminate your pain emotionally because it's needed versus your physical pain. Sometimes we do want to eliminate that to the closest that we can.
Well, now we could spin off an entire discussion about like the utility of clinical labels, because he briefly mentions it in here that let me see. For example, this is a quote: people who experience depression do well to treat their symptoms, but striving to eliminate them typically makes them worse. There's a recent research article, blah, blah, Journal of Happiness Studies. Belief that happiness requires an absence of pain undermines happiness itself. And some other things where mental pain avoidance is correlated with suicide attempts amongst those who are depressed, where it's almost that's
there
fantasy.
is a there is a line in there where he says though, like it's almost made worse by like a therapist pathologizing that.
Yes, that was the thing that comes next.
Yes.
Professionals who tell patients with any mental distress that their discomfort is a pathology, convincing them that they are ill and defective. You and I are always talking about this, like the light touch of psychiatric diagnosis,
Mhm.
that it changes someone's relationship to themselves and their feelings when you say you are a person who has an illness and it is called major depressive disorder.
Yeah.
Suddenly, because I mean, you know, I wake up on a day and I think, ugh, I don't want to face this day.
Yep.
Ugh, what is my life even about?
Mhm.
Because you reach middle age and you start going like, what is this all about?
Versus in
And
like adolescence, everything's just angsty and
gosh, yeah,
then
now all the possibilities are not open to me. I cannot become anything I want to be. Doors are closing. It's not what it was when I was 21. And like you can be anything you want as long as you're willing to work hard for it. It's not true. Okay. And and so you wake up and you think, is this what it is? Is this what life's about? Or like, am I doing enough? Like, did I fulfill my potential? And some days I think yes, and some days I think no. And if I've been told you are a person who has an illness and it could manifest in the form of thoughts like worthlessness or death, I have the exact same experience, but my relationship to that experience in the morning is, oh no, uh-oh, it's happening again. And that can kick off this cascade of reaction to the mood you woke up in.
Yeah. Yeah, for
And
sure.
we don't fully understand everything about this. I look forward to when I'm 75 and maybe we've had more breakthroughs on like what even is depression?
Right. Well,
What
I
even is it?
think,
But
well, I
but
think
that
even,
cascade I think is like important because if we're training people to be afraid that they wake up feeling that way, and I'm a person who has not been trained to be afraid to have that thought. I just
right.
have the thought and then I'm like, that was interesting. What were you going to say?
Well, two things. I think it's the disease model, right? That I think that we as the mental health profession really tried to latch on to legitimize, right? Or like, to like, well, it's not you, it's a disease. And it's like, okay, that
Yeah,
we
we
tried
don't
to get in
want
the
to
door.
blame anybody.
Right. We tried to get in the door and it backfired. But I
Really
mean,
hard.
even how we're seeing it now of how mental health has become more prominent. So we're seeing it marketed more. And so you're not going to dive in with all this complicated stuff that we've talked about. You're going to give a short fire thing to grab somebody's attention of, do you think you have depression? Do you wake up in the morning and question if life is you might have depression, call this person. And it's like, whoa, like nobody hears the you might part. They hear depression. I'm depressed. I'm broken. I'm defective. I gotta go fix this, right? So like it's all of that in there where it just makes it really hard.
Yeah. And then, we're monetizing it and I mean, I feel like this is part of our impetus to start this is that we care. We care about helping people and we think we have ways of doing that. And then to feel like these pieces of wisdom, that come up in this article and that apparently have like a good long history are being undermined by a system that's trying to sell something.
Mhm.
And that maybe there are a lot of people selling mental health, mental illness who also want to help people. And
Mhm.
it becomes really hard to be the voice of, you know, difficult emotions are a part of life. Pain is a part of
Right. Right. Because
you're not
isn't that
always going to
so?
be happy. We can't be the voice of that when it feels like, we're constantly being undermined in that, or even being told that like we're doing harm by saying that. I strongly believe we are not.
There was just a New York Times article that dropped that was, there are bad therapists out there.
Yeah.
Here's what to do. And I was like, oh God, no. That's a whole
Wait,
other.
were you afraid that your brand of therapy would be considered bad or that you would recognize like, oh yeah, I strongly disagree with those things.
More so I mean, lots of different things, right? Like, is my brand of therapy going to be labeled as bad? Is this going to be a thing that scares people off from mental health? The few people that are doing things blatantly wrong. Like, luckily, they talked about like the extremes that are just like very clear. But I think that it's sometimes easy for people to say that they didn't tell me what I wanted to hear, or I felt uncomfortable or I got mad, which is a perfectly healthy therapeutic approach. You're not supposed to always like what I have to say. Sometimes you are going to be mad at me, and that's okay. Let's talk about it. Let's work through it. But I think on this mass produced scale of just like, here's what to do if your therapist pisses you off or does things. But I did read it and it was very clear, like vagrant violations that was like, hey, if this happens, like that's not normal. But that's a whole, I digress. We can go into that for days.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I
but
have
what
this
I was thinking
okay.
though of what you were saying of the contrast, right? Like we can't be the people that say, if you have this thought when you wake up in the morning, you might be depressed as like a way to get people in the door, right? As a sales tactic or just to spread awareness. Like, do you need help? It doesn't need to be stigmatized, like trying to destigmatize mental health and increase access. And then we can't also then contrast and be the people that say, well, this is part of life because it's like, well, that's invalidating. How can you tell me this is totally normal and something I should be concerned about? I don't think is a field we know yet, like how to do that. I think we're still fighting against stigma, but we're still also therapy is a business, right? Like
Wow.
you have to make money from it. So you have to invite some of these strategies. And when you look at marketing strategies and all of that stuff, you have to speak to the pain point and you have to talk about the solution to get them to click and find you, So that's not something we're
Yeah.
taught
Our
as
job is hard.
therapists. Huh?
I said our job is hard because because I think we do have something to offer and we have something to sell. I talk with my students a lot about like the enterprise of like what even is therapy and this idea that like we are kind of co-creating a story where the client comes in a place of stuckness and they have some kind of a way of thinking about the way that they're stuck, but it naturally dead ends.
Mhm,
It's not necessarily like a helpful frame, and that's why they kind of can't get out of where they're
mhm.
stuck. And so they're looking for another perspective. And so we kind of tell them a I don't mean this word pejoratively. We tell them a similar story. Like I don't mean like we make stuff up. I mean like we
Right.
concoct we come up with an explanation and um a frame, a way of thinking about what the problem is, but that has more avenues. So somewhere for them
Yeah.
to go because
Yeah.
they dead ended in the explanation that they're working with right now.
Right.
So I think that's what we are always like, that's what we're trying to figure out how to say, this is what I offer.
Yeah. Right.
I can't even say it in a like compelling way right now.
And everything that you consult about, like marketing, or at least from our frame of reference, is, keep it short, keep it like to the
Exactly.
point. Like, where's the solution? How can they go find, how can they have an action button? Like, and I think that there's some of that like I find it really hard to sell acceptance and commitment therapy. So you're feeling really stuck, you're feeling really overwhelmed. Hey, why don't you call me? I'm going to make it worse before it's better, but trust me, it's going to be worth it. Like, click here to sign, like,
I mean, I'm always wondering if there's like this paradoxical marketing approach that we can come up with where we're like, it's gonna get worse. Like there's people like where we're like, it's gonna be really hard, like how gyms are always like, do you want to be sore tomorrow? Like,
maybe we do need to take a note out of their book because, right, it's
oh my
definitely.
God. Okay, so we're gonna work on that now. Brainstorming session.
Well, I'm looking at time and we've been
Yeah.
trying to kind of keep these to a certain time. So do we want to wrap up on this
I
note or
think
do we
we
want to
covered
keep
it.
going?
I think
Yeah.
we covered it.
Yeah. So
Um,
I think in the future, this is kind of, a taste of one of the things we might talk about. Maybe it'll come from other experiences or questions that people bring, but I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion or our thoughts on this article. We'll link the article in the show notes when we have show notes. And
we gotta figure out how to do that.
but yeah, go read that article and listen to this, and we'll be back for more next time.
Thanks for listening. This podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for treatment of any kind.